York in the 1920s was a city of shadows and opportunity, a place where fortune and danger walked hand in hand. It was the era of Prohibition, where bootleggers and gangsters thrived in the underworld, turning crime into an empire. At the heart of it all was one man who revolutionized the Mafia, transforming it from a collection of warring street gangs into a sophisticated criminal syndicate: Charles "Lucky" Luciano. His rise to power was not just about survival, but about vision, about rewriting the rules of organized crime and ensuring its dominance for generations to come. His influence extended far beyond the streets of New York, weaving its way into sports, politics, and even wartime intelligence. Some believe he was even connected to the infamous 1919 Black Sox scandal, where professional baseball players were bribed to throw the World Series, a scandal orchestrated by his mentor, Arnold Rothstein. From orchestrating the downfall of the old Mafia bosses to creating a corporate-style crime organization, Luciano's influence reshaped the American underworld. He formed alliances that shattered ethnic divides, structured an underworld governing body, and even struck secret deals with the US government during World War II. His name became synonymous with power, strategy, and betrayal. But like all kings of the underworld, his reign was destined to meet a dramatic end. This is the story of how Lucky Luciano built an empire, ruled it ruthlessly, and ultimately paid the price. Born Salvatore Lucania in Sicily in 1897, the man who would become Lucky Luciano immigrated to the United States in 1907, settling in New York's Lower East Side. Unlike many Italian immigrants of his time, Luciano was quick to shed the old world traditions, preferring the fast and dangerous life of the streets over honest labor. By the age of 14, he had dropped out of school and formed his own gang, running extortion schemes and engaging in petty crime. He quickly gained notoriety for his intelligence and willingness to do whatever it took to succeed. Unlike other young gangsters who swore allegiance to their Italian heritage, Luciano understood early on that crime was about money, not loyalty. He partnered with Jewish and Irish criminals like Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel, recognizing that working across ethnic lines gave him a strategic advantage. Prohibition, which lasted from 1920 to 1933, was a gold rush for the underworld, and Luciano seized the opportunity with both hands. He worked under Arnold Rothstein, the infamous gambler and crime financier who taught him the art of high-level corruption. Under Rothstein's mentorship, Luciano expanded his empire into bootlegging, illegal gambling, and drug trafficking. But it was in 1929 that he earned the nickname Lucky, after being kidnapped, beaten, and slashed across the throat before being dumped on a Staten Island beach. Miraculously, he survived, refusing to name his attackers, which only added to his legend. The deep scars on his face and drooping eye from the attack became his signature look, a permanent reminder that he was a man who could not be killed. From that moment on, Luciano wasn't just another mobster. He was a man seemingly invincible, destined for power. By the late 1920s, the New York Mafia was in chaos. The Castellammarese War, 1929 to 1931, pitted two powerful bosses against each other: Joe, the boss, Masseria, and Salvatore Maranzano. The war was a brutal struggle for dominance, with countless killings and betrayals on both sides. Luciano, always the strategist, initially aligned himself with Masseria, but saw an opportunity to take control for himself. In April 1931, Luciano orchestrated Masseria's assassination in a Coney Island restaurant, using his Jewish associates as hitmen to eliminate any trace of Mafia involvement. But his ambitions didn't stop there. Maranzano took over as boss of bosses, only to find himself betrayed by Luciano as well. Just 5 months later, in September 1931, Maranzano was murdered in his Manhattan office, clearing the path for Luciano to take control. With the old school bosses gone, Luciano introduced a revolutionary idea: a corporate model for the Mafia. Instead of one supreme leader, he formed the Commission, a governing body made up of the heads of the major crime families. The Mafia was divided into 5 families in New York, ensuring that no single boss had absolute power. This new system prevented unnecessary wars and allowed organized crime to function like a business, with structured hierarchies and designated territories. He also banned senseless killings, focusing instead on lucrative rackets such as narcotics, labor racketeering, and gambling. His system was so effective that it still exists in the Mafia today. For all his brilliance in restructuring organized crime, Luciano couldn't escape the long arm of the law. In 1936, New York prosecutor Thomas E. Dewey made it his mission to take down the Mafia, and Luciano was his primary target. Unable to pin violent crimes on him, Dewey instead pursued an unusual charge: prostitution racketeering. Despite the lack of direct evidence, Luciano was convicted in June 1936 and sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison, a devastating blow for the man who had ruled New York's underworld. Though behind bars, he still maintained a degree of control over the Mafia, proving that his influence was far from over. By 1942, with World War II underway, Luciano found an unexpected opportunity. The U.S. government, fearing Axis sabotage on New York's docks, secretly reached out to him for assistance. In a deal later known as Operation Underworld, Luciano used his Mafia connections to protect the docks from potential enemy attacks. This clandestine collaboration ultimately led to his early release in 1946, but with one condition: he was to be deported to Italy, never to return to the U.S. again. After being sent to Naples, Italy, Luciano refused to fade into obscurity. He turned his attention to international drug trafficking, using his connections to move heroin from Italy to the United States. But his attempts to regain full control were thwarted by the Havana Conference in 1946, where he secretly met with other top Mafia leaders, including Meyer Lansky. The U.S. government, fearing his resurgence, pressured Cuba to deport him back to Italy, effectively severing his influence in the American underworld. It was a crushing blow for the man who had once reigned supreme over organized crime. On January 26, 1962, Luciano collapsed from a heart attack at Naples International Airport, just moments after meeting with a film producer to discuss a movie about his life. Some speculate that he was poisoned by rivals or law enforcement, though no proof ever emerged. In an ironic twist, his body was returned to the U.S. and buried in St. John's Cemetery in Queens, New York, a final nod to the city he once ruled. Despite being banned from the country, he found a way back home in death. Lucky Luciano didn't just lead the Mafia, he redefined it. By creating the Commission and eliminating the old feudal system of crime families, he established a blueprint for organized crime that persisted long after his downfall. His business-minded approach to illegal enterprises ensured that the Mafia thrived well into the late 20th century, and his influence can still be seen in how modern crime organizations operate today. His story remains one of the most captivating in true crime history, inspiring countless books, films, and TV series. From The Godfather to Boardwalk Empire, Luciano's legacy is woven into pop culture as the ultimate mob boss, a man who ruled with intelligence, ruthlessness, and an unparalleled sense of strategy. But in the end, his ambition cost him everything. His life serves as a reminder that even the most untouchable crime lords can fall, leaving behind only their legend.